Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. I am John Schmeelk. Pleased to be joined by a friend of the program, the one and only Kim Jones, who covers the Giants for Newsday. Kim, how are you?
I'm awesome. Schmeelky, which is what I have called you forever.
Yes, of course.
Schmeelky.
Everyone calls me Schmeelk. It's fine.
Okay. What airport were we in where we ended up having dinner because the flight was
Vegas.
delayed? Vegas.
Yes,
that's
because
right.
I was in
That's
Vegas
right.
and I had to stay late.
Yes.
I had to stay late to do the post-game show.
Yes, yes.
And then we had to trek to the airport and,
Yep.
and the delays and all
Yep,
that
there were
fun
a couple
stuff.
of us in that group, and yes,
California Pizza Kitchen, if I remember correctly, right?
Exactly. Now we get to actually have another conversation. I love
Yes,
it.
we do. And we've had a lot happen since that conversation and today. So I guess let's just start real basic, Kim. What do you think of overall what the Giants have done this offseason trying to kind of get their team back on the right track here?
Well, there are things that remind me of other things with the Giants. For
Lay it out. What do
example,
you got?
Malik Neighbors has a real chance here to put not only a stamp on, his receiver room, but on this entire team because he has every gift, it seems. You don't want to rush him. You don't want to do any of that. But naturally, you watch him play. It's not unlike the feeling I got watching Odell play.
And do you know what got me most excited? When we talked to Drew Lock, I guess when this airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And he said, what gets me excited is that he's studying. And
Yes.
he's trying to
Yes.
figure out, and he's in his book. Because you can have
Yes.
the guy that's a super athlete, he doesn't know where the hell he's going.
Right.
It doesn't matter as much. But the fact that Drew Lock, he wasn't even asked that. He went out of his way
Yes.
to point that out. To me, that was just as important as any of the physical stuff you're talking about.
Well, and important for a room where, wide receiver wise, you can't ask Darius Slayton to do everything. Mm-hmm. He is an important leader, in my opinion, for this offense, especially now. And he's been a good leader throughout, but especially now with the makeup of the offense. But when you look at Neighbors and the gifts and the way he can stress a defense, for one thing, how many teams, and it might be more than I'm thinking, but how many teams play after play can keep up with him? He's incredibly fast. He catches everything. When you talk catch radius, when the fans are here at training camp, you're going to hear oohs and ahs from the folks who are here to watch practice.
I heard him from the media 2 weeks ago when he made those two catches.
Yeah. Well, the one was absolutely remarkable because it looked like he had to extend his arms 6 inches to even get to the ball.
Crazy.
And so there's hope. Like, that's what I'm talking about when people ask me about the Giants. Is there hope? They don't ask me if there's hope, but I like the word, so I use it. There is hope here. They have some good players, some really good players, and some emerging rookies. And I also wonder this: can Neighbors be Neighbors, which looks pretty darn good? Can he help lift the entire receiver room?
Is he a force multiplier, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
No, I'm with you, Kim, and I think the exciting thing for me, and let's talk about the wide receiver room first then. Neighbors, I love Malik Neighbors. I thought he was pretty close to Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought he was that good of a player in terms of coming out. I thought he's wonderful.
Maybe in some ways a better fit here.
Yeah, I mean, agreed.
We can leave that alone just because we don't need to talk about a player that's not,
Correct.
Here. But maybe that was actually the better move, and it looks to me initially like it was the better move.
Yeah, it could very well be. We'll have to wait and see how everything plays out with their careers. But it's not just like Jalen Hyatt's second year, right? We know his speed. Like, does he figure it out? Does he take a big jump? Wando Robinson heading into his third year, but in a lot of ways, it's really like his second year because he lost the whole year with his torn ACL.
Right.
So can these guys all emerge a little bit at the same time? And you take a position group that you just made the point. You kind of asked Darius Slayton to do a lot over the past 4 years, probably more than a guy that was a day 3 draft pick should be asked to do. It's not fair to him.
Right.
Can this group emerge all at the same time and turn a position group that really, we do a show on Big Blue Kickoff every year, and we rank the Giants position groups 1 through 12, and receivers have been in the bottom 3 or 4 the last 4 or 5 years. Can this now become a strength of the team, which you talk about Neighbors elevating the rest of the wide receiver group? Can this wide receiver group elevate the quarterback? Elevate the running game? Can they come together and elevate everything if those other young guys can step up and also kind of work into what the Giants think their potential could be?
Well, from what we've seen from practices, A lot of these guys are capable pass catchers, and they're going to need to be for obvious reasons. But even a Theo Johnson, yes, he's a Penn Stater, so I know him. I don't know Theo better, but I know his game better.
He moves, man. You watch him
he
on the
can
practice
move.
field,
He
he's
can
fast.
move. He can move people if he needs to. And he's also fast. So can the Giants offense stress defenses to a point that perhaps we haven't seen in a while with, we think, and the Giants obviously hope, a healthy Daniel Jones? It's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, that's the one thing about going into training camp. By then, you would certainly think Daniel is clear. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, they've been taking him slowly in many ways.
The way he's moving
playing
around, though,
7-on-7. He looks
great.
great, but I understand them not putting him team. Why would you put him in team drills in the spring?
I wouldn't
You'd have
either.
to be crazy,
Right. But like just
yes.
watching him move, like
Yes.
if let's say the Super Bowl's tomorrow, would
Right.
he be healthy after playing it? Oh, he's playing.
Oh, there's
in that
no
game.
doubt
There's
about
no
that.
question.
Yeah, no, he looks that healthy, yes. But I also think they're doing the smart thing.
100%.
But when you look at it's kind of funny because there are questions about like what's the defense going to look like, right? But I feel like we've seen some answers on what this offense is going to feel like and look like. Basically because of neighbors. And what I don't want to do is say it's all on this kid. And
Right.
he is a kid. I mean, to me, they're all kids, but he's a kid. But it doesn't seem too big for him. And can I tell you one thing I loved? And no one else who was sitting in this chair next to you would point this out.
What do you got?
I loved and was touched by the fact that he made sure he told us, I could cry, that he already had bought his mom a house.
First thing he did before he even signed the contract.
Right. And that's obviously with an agent, and he was going to have the wherewithal to do that and everything else. But that kind of stuff, I think, and I'll never not think this, tells you just a little bit, if not a little bit more, about a young person. Yeah. And in that case, the moment he said that, I thought to myself, there's something to this kid beyond, I want to have X number of touchdowns and X number of yards as a rookie and everything else. There's something motivating him. And I think that kind of thing, I've seen it in my career, can be really, really positive and really something that can sustain a young man during the early parts of his career, and I hope I'm right about that with neighbors.
Yeah, I had a pretty long conversation with him. You're going to see it on the wide receiver edition of the Giants Huddle podcast. It's probably not up when this airs. It'll probably be the next week or something like that. And you don't get the I got more of a sense, and I think you know what I mean by this, a guy that wants to be a great football player more so than a guy that wants to be a star. He doesn't seem like the guy that's craving, I want to be like a celebrity.
Right.
I don't get that from him.
Right.
Which I think at that wide receiver position, we've seen that.
They're
right?
divas usually.
Yeah,
that's why the best ones we call divas sometimes.
I don't get that sense from him. At least early. And
that's
early,
fair. It's
things
early,
can
but
change,
that's fair.
I don't get that sense
No, I
from
think
him.
that's fair. I think he it's funny to say this about a guy who clearly has so many gifts and great speed and everything. He struck me early on as a lunch bucket guy.
Yeah. And that's what everyone LSU
that's
told
not
me too.
always what you hear about the real gifted, incredible wide receiver.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New you moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
So now it comes to the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And we've already touched on it a little bit. Both of us think Daniel looks really good. He should be back and ready to go. I want to get your perspective from the media because I know there are some reports out there and people have intimated, well, this is really a competition. Drew Lock could win that starting job week 1. My impression, and this is not me talking to anybody, anyone tell me anything, I would be shocked if Daniel Jones is not the starting quarterback in week 1 and Drew Lock beats him out in like summer training camp. I'd be very surprised by that. How about you?
I would be shocked.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point,
So
I would
we're
be
on the
shocked.
same page
Yeah,
on that
no,
then.
for sure. And I just Daniel, like Daniel doesn't let us in a whole lot.
No,
as you know.
He's worse than Eli was.
Yeah, he's very different from Eli
Yes.
too in many ways, even though they have some similarities. But fundamentally, especially the way they deal with us, a lot different. Although Eli likes us now. He likes all.
Well, he's one of us now.
Exactly.
He's one of us.
Exactly.
One
I like
of
Eli.
us. One of us.
I love Eli in the show.
I know. Eli Betty show.
Yeah,
Does a great
exactly.
job. Yeah.
But yeah, so with Daniel, you just and I don't always. I mean, I know I'm a reporter. I'm supposed to be objective and everything. As a human being, I'm rooting for Daniel to at least stay healthy.
Oh.
Like, to at least be able to put together a representative season where it's, oh, that's the best of Daniel Jones. Because I don't think we've really seen it. I know we
had a stretch 2 years
they had
ago
a
where
stretch
we
a couple
did,
years ago with a playoff run and everything, but short run, but it was a run and it counts.
Hey, they won a game in the playoffs.
Of course,
right?
it counts on the road. Yeah, it counts.
And given how it's been here the last 10
of
years,
course, you take
that's a
it.
big feat.
Yeah, you take it. But for Daniel's sake, and really for Giants fans' sake, I hope that he has a chance to be, as Sean McDermott would say, the best version of himself. I hope that happens.
And we'll see how good that is then, and how far that can bring the team.
Exactly.
And then the Giants have to make decisions to see what happens with that.
Right.
I'm with you.
But I don't see Locke other than in, a game's out of hand or something
Or
like
an injury,
that. Or
whatever.
an injury.
Yeah,
Well, of course,
sure.
an injury.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I'm 100% in agreement with you. And I hope that, again, and then we'll bring it back to, we talked about how the wide receiver needs the quarterback needs the wide receiver.
Yep.
They both need the offensive line.
Yeah.
And, Kim, we had to sit through those games early last year where, they're playing the 49ers in week 3 and
Well, that was a bloodbath.
they could have played that game 100 times. The
yeah.
Niners would have won 99 of them.
Maybe 100.
Maybe
to be
100.
honest with you.
They
Yeah.
had no chance in
Right.
that game.
No.
Is it a week later or 2 weeks later they played the Seahawks? The Seahawks, what, they have 8 sacks in that game, 9 sacks, whatever it was, some ridiculous number.
Yep.
I mean, the Giants gave 80 sacks last year.
Yeah.
80 sacks.
Yeah.
That is insane. I think, and I go back to this, for some reason this commercial sticks in my head. There was an old cell phone commercial where there's an issue, and it's like medieval castle, and they put like a huge sack of money in a catapult, they shoot off, and they go, we're going to throw money at the problem here, and that's how we're going to solve it. And
I wish someone would look at me and say that.
Right? I would love that too. So, the way I talk about the Giants' offensive line this year and the way they handle it, they threw numbers at the problem,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They just brought in a bunch of veterans that have started a lot of games that, I don't think they're looking for one of these guys to turn into like an all-pro that's going to become a Hall of Famer.
Well, they have the all-pro.
Right, and Andrew Thomas.
Yeah.
Can they stabilize this offensive line so you can compete week in, week out and function as an offense? Because last year, for a lot of games, Kim, they could not function as an offense because of the way that offensive line played.
Absolutely. There's that. I mean, 80, 85 sacks, whatever it was. It was ridiculous. And I know there's some note about when Tommy was in there, he held the ball longer and stuff. You don't get to 85 sacks that way. Sorry.
No.
Sorry. No. So, that was something that had to be cleaned up. I will say this, like when you talk to a John Runyon, and I remember covering his dad with Michael Strahan, by the way, because I've been around a little bit of the time.
I was here for some of that time too.
When you talk to him in a group setting, he makes a lot of sense. It means a lot to him.
He's an adult.
He cares. Yeah. He wants to do a good job.
Jermaine Illuminor is the same way about it.
Yes, he is. But we just most recently talked with John.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get Jermaine
this week. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But again, because we had him on the conference call or whatever it was when he signed. But the offensive line has to be better, and I also believe with the new coaching staff on that line, Carmen
Brasella,
James Ferentz from Iowa.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of the Iowa program, but that's my problem, not anyone else's here.
It's
my Penn Stater in me. But it doesn't mean he can't be a great coach, obviously, and he might be.
Hey, the one thing Iowa
coach,
knows is offensive line, right?
They do, and Carm is fantastic and comes with a great resume. Worked under Dante Scarnecchia, who one time it was the Super Bowl in Atlanta, Schmeelk, and I got to sit with him by myself for whatever reason.
With Dante?
Dante. With Dante.
Yeah.
The media was all Dante'd out or
awesome.
offensive lined out.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying to me...
Well, they don't want to talk to Tom Brady.
Right, exactly. That if you give me effort, I can do the rest. And I asked Carm if... if he thinks the same way. And he kind of sort of said yes, but it was like the last question. He was getting out of there. I get it, But if you've worked under Dante Scarnecchia, some of it has had to rub off on you. So that's one of the big reasons I have great hope for this offensive line being better and hopefully, for the Giants' sake, staying healthy.
And look, this is the honeymoon period. Assistant coach comes and you talk to people about, he's doing a great job. We love him.
Of course.
So that's what they're going to say.
Right.
But the reviews I've gotten, I've liked, and talking to some of the offensive linemen, when I did my player interviews on the Giants Huddle. The one thing that I found interesting, and more than one guy said this, is that he has non-negotiables, right? Every coach has that,
Okay,
right?
sure, of course. Yeah,
But
you got to.
But he says, look, he will talk to us about certain plays and be like, well, how do you guys want to handle this? What are you comfortable with? What do you like to do?
So he's empowering
so
the players
he is
a little bit,
taking
yeah.
player input too and combining it with his non-negotiables, trying to make this work. And, you know, he knows what Jermaine Illuminor is. That's the one guy he's familiar with from his time in Las Vegas, obviously.
Yep.
And then a lot like the wide receiver room, you have two young guys in Evan Neal, who's battled a lot of injuries the first 2 years, and when he's been out there, he's not played as well as they need him to play. Joe Shane said that this offseason. And then John Michael Schmidt, rookie center, and look, I talked to him too, and he goes, yeah, last year was a rough year.
I'm sure it was.
Go as well as I wanted it to go.
I'm sure it was.
So if you can get those guys to take a step, and you know, to be superstars, just play a little bit better, creep towards average in their second years, right? Again, you don't need to have the 10th best offensive line even. If you can have the 18th best offensive line, the 21st best offensive line, I think you take it.
If they're in the top half,
that'd be huge.
That would be like Carm should be offensive or you know, assistant coach of the year kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Truly. And also with, you know, and with the sacks, I mean, they're not all on the O-line, as we discussed a little bit earlier.
Quarterbacks control sack numbers a lot.
So that does come into play a little bit, but it can't be that ugly again. Like, I mean, truly, like when I'm saying it can't be, like odds would be astronomical that it can be that ugly.
Yeah, to have two historic seasons in a row.
It just can't be.
It was like the, you know, people talk about the David Carr Houston season.
Yeah.
Like it's some legendary season.
Right.
Last year wasn't that far off of that for the Giants. It was very similar, to be honest with you. Football season is coming, and so is the next college semester. If you need funding, a Citizen student loan can help you pay for 100% of your school's certified costs. Get your rate quote in about 2 minutes at citizensbank.com/payforcollege. Now, they had fun on the defensive line this offseason, Kim, and this could be fun.
It could be a lot of fun.
Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, obviously Brian Burns, a new addition, and then maybe without so many snaps, maybe Azeez Ojulari can stay healthy a little bit.
Maybe.
You have Nacho, the veteran there. You have some young guys too. This defensive front, I don't think there's any doubt. If this team's going to be good, this is going to be the strength of this team on both sides of the ball.
Agreed. And I'd like to see a little more of Nacho. I'd like to see a little more of Ojulari, again, if he can stay healthy. Because, you know, Wink Martindale, and I know he's from days gone by now, but he called him the best natural pass rusher on the Giants. The one thing Wink certainly knows is pass rushing.
No, and I don't think in terms of like bend and athleticism and moves, I agree. I think when Ojulari was healthy, he was the best guy. I'm with him.
But let's face it, Dexter Lawrence getting some help was incredibly important. Burns comes in, and Schmeelk, I would submit he is a two guy solution, because not only can he help Dexter, he can help Thibodeau.
Oh yeah.
And they can all help each other. If that trio can stay healthy, I think you're talking about an offensive line. I love that Andre Patterson is in that room sometimes now. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's
one of the best assistant coaches of football.
In football, in the history of football, probably.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. So if they can get a little mojo going there, they might be allow an offense that might come into the season, you know, a little bit. You're gonna have Daniel. We suspect. We hope. We know. Whatever. Can you edit out my ums and ahs here? Okay.
Pierce will take care of you.
But when you look at what this defensive line could be, it's been a lot of Dexter since Leonard left.
Yeah.
It can now be a lot of Dexter, but with complementary players who are at really, really good complementary players. That's going to be fun. Burns is going to be a real revelation for this locker room, I think.
And he's a good dude too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
he's a real mature. He's patient. He's an adult, and you know, I think he's a guy just because of the team he came from. And the Panthers have had their own struggles over the past 4 years. You know, when you're losing a lot of games, it's hard to sack the quarterback a lot. I think if the Giants play a little bit better, they have more leads. I think his numbers are going to probably bounce up.
I think that's a good point.
Too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If they can just unleash, if Dexter can be, you know, not double teamed every play, which I guess would be silly, but you can dream about it now because of the pieces around him. And if they use those pieces properly, I think that's a fascinating part of this defense, and frankly of Dexter's career in a way.
Yeah.
Dexter's a fantastic player, but he can't do it all alone.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Correct. 100%. And then I think, if you take a look at the defense, the one weakness you worry about, Kim, you have a lot of uncertainty in the secondary, right?
Yeah.
You have Deontay Banks, who I think we all feel pretty good about
Yes.
heading into a second year.
Yes.
Jason Penocchio is a solid safety.
Hope he stays healthy. Yep.
Then what?
Yeah.
Like, you got a bunch of guys out there you think
Well,
can
where
play,
are you
but
on
you're
like
not sure.
Cordell Flott's going to be asked, obviously, to be in that key role.
I mean, he's in that starting cornerback
Right,
spot. We
right.
got to see if he can hold it. I'm sure
Right.
there'll be a competition
Sure.
in the offseason and all that stuff. You know, do you eventually slide your rookie third-round pick to be your starting nickel at some point? Does Tyler Nubin, your second-round pick, beat out Dane Belton for the second safety spot? But you hope that maybe that pass rush is so good, it could take some...
Yeah,
the
a little bit of
quarterback's
pressure.
getting the ball out so quick,
Right.
it can take some of the pressure off that secondary.
Yeah, you hope that that's the case. I think that one thing that I do like about all of this is there is some depth. Well, we don't know how that depth exactly is going to shake out on the depth chart, but there is some depth in terms of those, and they have some options in terms of those. But I love the fact that there's competition. You know, you don't want to play your best ball in training camp necessarily, but there are going to be a bunch of those guys vying for those positions who are going to have to really show out to move up depth charts. I like that idea of competition for the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think when they play those joint practices against the Lions here, right? When they see him, you're going to see the guys line up against them, Amon-Ra St. Brown,
Right.
Jamison Williams, who's
Right.
got a lot of speed. And how do these guys do in those type of situations? I think that's going to be really telling.
That's a good point. I hadn't forgotten about that, but that's a really good point. And we all get to see Dan Campbell again. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. And then real quick, before we say
Yep.
goodbye, you look at the schedule, Kim, and you have a real tough stretch in the middle, right?
Yes.
But I have never walked into a season where I'm putting so much importance on just the first two games of the
100%.
schedule. I know it's home versus the Vikings, and I'm sure the Vikings have that game scheduled too. Oh, we're going to start the season fast. We get to play the Giants. We're going to beat them week 1. And then you're at Washington, who, rookie quarterback.
Right.
I imagine talking to the people I know that cover the Vikings, they think Sam Darnold's probably going to be starting week 1, not McCarthy. They're not going to rush the young kid.
Right.
But then at Cleveland, Dallas, Seattle, Cincy, Eagles, Steelers, all those teams either finished over 500 or made the playoffs last year. They're really good teams. You have to get off to a fast start this year. Have to.
And like you said, there's that opportunity with the early schedule. So I think the Giants and their fans, maybe the fans at least as much, would have a great psyche going forward if they saw a game and then another game, and you're starting to build on really competent, good play calling, the kind of play on the field that you want, and the kind of expertise you're getting in the locker or in the meeting rooms that is helping this team really grow. Because this is still, they've got some veterans, and we talked about a bunch of them, but this is also a team that hasn't spent a lot of time together, and I guess I just wonder if they can get an early reason for hope. What can that do for this team? And we don't know that, but it has to be good things.
Hey, look, they started the season fast 2 years ago. It got them to a playoff run, right?
Good point.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
doable.
Again, there are no guarantees,
Right.
but two more things before we go. Darren Waller retired. That happened a couple days ago. We're recording this the week of minicamp.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on how that impacts the position group and the team in general.
Well, my sense is they clearly drafted Theo Johnson knowing that it was unlikely Darren was coming back,
Or at least preparing
or
for it.
preparing
At
for the
the very worst,
possibility.
yeah.
Preparing for the possibility. So there's that. I wish the best for Darren.
Me too. He's a good guy.
He's had a path that he's talked about. That's for him to talk about at this point, especially if this is a retired Darren Waller. But I certainly wish him happiness and the best. He's gone through something that so many of our families have in terms of battling, addiction, and he's been honest about it. And that's something that's part of his story forever. And I certainly wish him well.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Final question. What would you consider the Giants to have to do this year to consider this season a success in your mind?
A winning record.
What if they went 8-9? Would that be okay for you? Would you say that's good enough, or would you be a little disappointed?
I'd probably be a little disappointed. Okay. I think we're at a growth point. I say we just because I use the word we all the time. Yeah. But I think that the Giants are at a point where the arrow needs to start pointing up and staying up. And then you can say next year, perhaps we could sit here a year from now and say, well, last year was good, but this year now really looks like the year that they can come out, with a lot of firepower, a lot of veterans now, because after you're not a rookie, you're a veteran basically in this league. And look what the Giants could do.
Kim, this was fun. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it, John.
Giants Huddle Podcast was brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Football season is coming, and so is the next college semester. If you need funding, a Citizens student loan can help you pay for 100% of your school certified costs. Get your rate quote in about 2 minutes at citizensbank.com/payforcollege. That's the Giants Huddle Podcast. Thank you to Kim Jones. We'll see you next time, everybody.